Good morning, students. Today we shall discuss the sampling theory. Sampling theory is the field of statistics that is involved with the collection, analysis and interpretation of data gathered. Sampling is a process used in statistical analysis in which a predetermined number of observations are taken from a large population. Here we will be using the sample from a large population, whereas which depends on the type of analysis being performed. Here we will be discussing about the population and the sample. In a statistical investigation, the group of individuals under study is called the population, and from which we are selecting some samples or the individuals, that is known as sample. A finite subset of statistical individuals in a population is called a sample, and the number of members in that sample is called sample size. The sample characteristics are utilized to approximately determine or estimate the population. For example, in a shop, if we want to access the quality of sugar, wheat or any other commodity by taking a handful of it from a bag, then decide to purchase it or not, we'll be using sampling. Similarly, a housewife normally tests the cooked products to find it if they properly cooked and contain the proper quantity of salt. She'll be using only the sampling. There are different types of sampling. Here we will be discussing the 4 types of sampling, namely purposive sampling, random sampling, stratified sampling and systematic sampling. Purposive sampling. Purposive sampling is one in which the sample units are selected with a definite purpose in view. That means we will have some purpose. If you want to decide, we will be getting something from that, then with the purpose the sampling is done, so we call it as purposive sampling. Random sampling. A random sample is one in which each unit of population has equal chance of being included in the sample. Simple sampling. Simple sampling is a random sampling in which each unit of population has an equal chance of being included in the sample, and that the probability is independent of the previous drawings. Stratified sampling. The entire group of the population is divided into small groups, namely strata, which differs from one another, but each of these groups is homogeneous within itself. The units of the samples are randomly selected from these strata, so it is called as the stratified sampling. A sample which is aggregate of the sampled units of each of the stratum is termed as stratified sampling, and the technique of drawing the sample is known as stratified sampling. Parameter and statistics. In order to avoid verbal confusion with the statistical constants, namely the mean, median, mode, or the standard deviation or variance, etc., for the population and the sample, we will be using 2 different names, namely the parameter and statistic. Standard error. The standard deviation of the sampling distribution of the statistic is known as the standard error, and it is abbreviated as SE. The standard error plays a very important role in the large sample theory and forms the basis of the testing of hypothesis. Whereas this is standard error enables us to determine the probable limits within which the population parameter may be expected to lie. Test of significance. A very important aspect of sampling theory is the study of significance, which enable us to find out the basis of the sample results, that is, the deviation or the difference between the observed sample statistic and the hypothetical parameter value. Here the observed sample statistic is by the observation we are getting a value. For example, we can have it as a mean, whereas the hypothetical parameter is by assumption we will be assuming some value as the mean. So the deviation between the observed sample and the hypothetical parameter means the difference between the observed value, that is using the observed value will be finding the mean and will be assuming some value as the hypothetical parameter. So whether there is any deviation between these two, we are going to test. Similarly, the deviation between two independent sample statistics, whether we are going to find out is it significantly different or not, will be finding, or might be attributed to chance or fluctuations of the sample.